The transport ship touched down on Valoris Prime, just as the twin suns rose over the horizon. Minji pressed her face against the small window, watching the massive structures of the Galactic Defense Academy stretch across the landscape. Her heart pounded in her chest. She was the first human to ever attend this place. The Academy building looked more like a fortress than a school. Towers of dark metal reached toward the purple sky. Everywhere she looked, she saw aliens. Big aliens, strong aliens, aliens with claws and fangs and armor plating covering their bodies. Minji looked down at her own small hands. Soft skin, no claws, no natural weapons at all. She gathered her bags and stepped off the transport. The gravity here was slightly heavier than Earth's. Each step felt like she was carrying extra weight. Around her, other new cadets moved with ease. A massive reptilian creature walked past, nearly knocking her over without even noticing. She steadied herself and kept walking. The first day passed in a blur of registration and orientation. Minji received her uniform, her room assignment, and her class schedule. Combat Training Class Alpha 7 would be her primary course. The administrator who handed her the schedule looked at her with something that might have been pity. When Minji entered the combat training hall for the first time, she understood that look. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and equipment designed for creatures much larger than humans. 23 other cadets were already there. They all turned to stare at her. She recognized some of their species from her studies: Krellians with their scaled bodies and sharp teeth, Felkari with their feline grace and retractable claws, Thornbacks with their thick exoskeletons. Every single one of them was a natural predator from their homeworld. And every single one of them was bigger than her. Minji walked to the back row and sat down. Better to stay out of the way. Better to observe and learn. The instructor entered like a storm. Vaxthor was a Krellian warrior, standing over 8 feet tall. Scars covered his scales, each one a story from some battle. His yellow eyes swept across the room, stopping when they reached Minji. "A human," he said, his voice like grinding rocks. "I was told one would be joining us." I argued against it. Some of the other cadets laughed. Minji kept her face neutral. Vaxthor continued. "This academy trains warriors. Defenders of the galaxy. Apex predators who will face the worst threats in known space." He walked closer to Minji. "Humans are soft, weak. You have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no weapons built into your body. Tell me, human, why are you here?" Minji stood up. Her voice was steady. "To learn, sir. To learn," Vaxthor repeated. He turned away from her. "We shall see if you survive the learning." The first week was brutal. Physical training started before dawn. Running, climbing, lifting weights that were designed for creatures twice Minji's size. She finished last in every exercise. During combat practice, she was paired with the smallest cadets and still lost every match within seconds. A young Krellian named Taman seemed to particularly enjoy her failures. "Look at the prey species trying to keep up," he would say loudly enough for everyone to hear. She should be in the cafeteria, not the combat hall. Minji said nothing. She took her notes. She studied every move the instructor demonstrated. When training ended, she stayed late to practice on her own. The other cadets largely ignored her. To them, she was already a failure, not worth their attention. But a few watched her more carefully than others. Hyun was a Valkyrie with golden fur and bright green eyes. He noticed how Minji never complained, even when she was clearly exhausted. How she always showed up early and stayed late. Jiwon was a Thornback, one of the few females in the class. She saw how Minji positioned herself during group exercises, always keeping the instructor in view, always watching everyone's movements. Daehyun was another Krellian, bigger and quieter than Taman. He noticed that Minji helped clean up equipment after training without being asked. By the end of the first week, Minji had earned no respect from instructor Vaxthor. Her scores were the lowest in the class. But she had not quit. She had not complained. She had not asked for special treatment. On the 8th day, something changed. Minji arrived at training with extra ration packs in her bag. During the morning break, she noticed a small Valkyrie cub named Minho sitting alone, looking miserable. "You okay?" she asked quietly. Minho's ears flattened against his head. "Forgot my morning rations. Gravity here makes me hungry." Minji pulled out one of her extra packs and handed it to him.
"Here, I brought extra." Minho stared at the food, then at her. "Why?"
"Because you're hungry," Minji said simply. Word spread quietly among the cubs. The human had shared her food. It was strange behavior. Predators did not usually share with those outside their family group, but she had done it without asking for anything in return. The next day, Minji arrived early to help set up the training equipment. The heavy weights needed to be moved into position. The practice dummies arranged. It was not required, but she did it anyway. Hyun arrived early for his own reasons and found her struggling with a weight that was too heavy for her. He watched for a moment, then moved to help. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I know," Minji replied, "but it helps everyone start faster." During combat practice that day, a thornback cub named Junho took a hard hit from his sparring partner. He fell badly, his leg twisted. The other cadets hesitated, not sure if they should stop. The match was supposed to continue until someone yielded. Minji was across the room. She immediately stepped out of her own match and ran to Junho. "Medical," she called out loudly. "He's injured." Instructor Vaxthor appeared beside her. "The match continues until he yields." "He can't yield if he's unconscious," Minji said firmly. "He needs medical attention." Vaxthor's eyes narrowed. But Academy rules were clear. Minji was right to call for help. He signaled for the medical team. Minji stayed with Junho until the medics arrived. She kept him talking, kept him calm. The other cubs watched this with confusion. She had stopped her own training, would lose points from her score, all for another cadet. That evening in the barracks, the cubs talked among themselves. "The human is strange," Taemin said. "She acts like we are her responsibility." "She shared food with Minho," another cub mentioned. "And she stayed with Junho when he was hurt." "Prey behavior," Taemin insisted. "She is trying to make us protect her by acting helpless and kind." But Hyun thought differently. He had watched her train alone every night, had seen her practice the same combat move 50 times, failing each time but never stopping. That was not prey behavior. Prey ran away. This human kept coming back. Ji-won had noticed something else. In group formations, Minji always positioned herself where she could see everyone. Not to protect herself, to protect others. It was subtle, but it was there. Daehyun said nothing, but he remembered how Minji had helped Junho without hesitation. How she had challenged the instructor to do the right thing. The first week ended. Minji's scores were still the lowest in the class. Instructor Vaxthor made sure to announce this publicly. But she was still there. Still trying. Still getting up every morning to face another day of being the weakest in the room. She sat in the back row taking notes, watching everything. And slowly, without realizing it, some of the cubs had started watching her too. The second week of training brought new challenges. Instructor Vaxthor increased the difficulty of every exercise. The gravity simulations ran heavier. The combat drills lasted longer. The obstacle courses added more dangerous elements. Minji struggled through each one. Her muscles ached constantly. She had bruises covering most of her body from combat practice. Every morning when she woke up, she had to force herself out of bed. But she never missed a training session. She never asked for the exercises to be made easier. What the other cubs started to notice was what happened during the breaks and after training. Minji had established a routine that confused many of them. Every morning she arrived 30 minutes before class started. She would check all the equipment, making sure nothing was damaged or dangerous. She organized the practice weapons by size and weight. She filled the water containers that the cubs used during breaks. Hyun began arriving early too, curious about what she was doing. One morning, he found her carefully inspecting a climbing rope. "This rope has a weak spot," she said, showing him a section where the fibers were frayed. "Someone could get hurt." Hyun looked at the rope more carefully. She was right. He would not have noticed it himself. "Why do you care?" he asked. "You don't even use the climbing equipment well." Minji smiled a little. "I don't want anyone to fall because the equipment failed. That's not a fair way to lose." She reported the rope to Instructor Vaxthor, who replaced it without comment. But Hyun noticed the instructor watching Minji with an expression that was hard to read. Not quite approval. Something more like disturbance. During training sessions, Minji continued to perform poorly in physical tasks, but she had started doing something else that caught attention. Whenever another cub succeeded at something difficult, she would quietly congratulate them. When someone was struggling with a technique, she would watch carefully and sometimes offer observations. A Velkari cub named Sora was having trouble with a particular climbing technique. She kept slipping at the same point, growing more frustrated with each attempt. Minji watched her for several rounds, then approached carefully. "Your back foot," Minji said quietly. "You're pushing when you should be pulling. Use it as an anchor instead of for thrust." Sora looked at her suspiciously. Why would the weakest cadet try to give advice? But she tried it anyway. On the next attempt, she made it past the difficult section. "How did you know that?" Sora asked. "I watch a lot," Minji said. "I have to. I can't rely on natural ability like you can." Sora thought about this. The human was right. Sora had never needed to think deeply about technique because her body naturally understood how to climb. But Minji had to break down every movement, understand every detail because she had no natural advantages. The food sharing continued. Minji brought extra rations every day now. She had learned which cubs tended to forget their meals, which ones were still adjusting to academy nutrition, which ones burned energy faster and needed more food. She shared without making a big show of it. A ration pack left on a desk. An energy bar offered during a break. Taman continued to mock her for this. "The prey species is trying to buy friends with food," he announced one day. But Jiwon, the quiet thornback, had been paying attention. She noticed that Minji never asked for anything in return, never mentioned the food she shared, never tried to use it to gain favor or advantage. She simply saw someone who needed something and provided it. The obstacle course incident happened during the 3rd week. It was a particularly brutal course designed to test endurance and pain tolerance. Cubs had to navigate through areas with extreme temperatures, unstable platforms, and sections filled with harmless but irritating gas. Minho, the small Velkari who had received Minji's ration pack on the 2nd day, was struggling. His species did not handle extreme heat well, and one section of the course ran through a heat chamber. He made it through but collapsed on the other side, his leg bent at a wrong angle. Minji was 3 obstacles behind him. When she reached the heat chamber and saw Minho on the ground through the transparent wall, she did not hesitate. She pushed through the heat as fast as her human body could manage, ignoring the pain of the burns forming on her skin. She reached Minho and immediately checked his leg. Broken. She activated her communication device. Medical Emergency Obstacle Course Section 7. Broken leg, possible heat exhaustion. Instructor Vaxthor's voice came through. "Continue your course, Cadet Minji. Medical will retrieve him." "Medical is 12 minutes away," Minji replied. "He needs help now." "That is an order, Cadet." Minji looked at Minho, who was barely conscious, then at the rest of the course. She made her decision. She carefully lifted Minho, supporting his broken leg as gently as possible. He was heavier than her, but humans had good endurance. She could carry him if she moved carefully. The walk back to the start point took 15 minutes. Minji's arms shook with effort. Her burns throbbed, but she did not drop him. She did not rush and risk hurting him more. She just kept walking steadily until she reached the medical station. The medical team took Minho immediately. One of the medics looked at Minji's burns. "You need treatment too." "After everyone else finishes the course," Minji said. "I don't want to delay their training." Instructor Vaxthor was waiting when she finally left the medical area. His face was hard to read. "You failed the obstacle course," he said. "You disobeyed a direct order?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" Minji met his eyes. "Because Minho needed help immediately. Medical was too far away. Someone had to be there. And you decided that someone was you." "I was the closest one who noticed he was hurt, sir." Vaxthor was silent for a long moment. "Your scores are already the lowest in the class. You cannot afford more failures, I know, sir." "Then why did you do it?" Minji thought about how to explain. "On Earth we have a saying, 'No one left behind.' It means the mission is not complete until everyone is safe. Minho is part of our class. That makes him part of my mission." Vaxthor dismissed her without another word. But that evening the cubs talked about what had happened. Minji had sacrificed her own score, her own standing, to help Minho. She had ignored the instructor's order because she believed helping Minho was more important. "She carried him," Minho said quietly. He was in the medical bay, his leg in a healing cast. Several cubs had come to visit him. "I'm twice her size. She's the weakest in the class. But she carried me. My own clutchmates would have left me." A young Krellian named Nari said softly, "It's our way. The strong survive. The weak make themselves stronger or fail. Is that better? Hyun asked. Or is it just what we've always done? No one had an answer. Daehyun, who rarely spoke, finally said, She is strange for a prey species. Prey runs from danger. She runs toward it when others are hurt. Ji-won added, She watches all of us. Have you noticed? During exercises, she positions herself where she can see everyone. Like she's keeping guard. Over what? Taemin demanded. We don't need a weak human protecting us. Maybe not, Sora said. But she does it anyway. That night, Minji was in the training hall alone. She often stayed late to practice. Her body was exhausted, her burns were healing slowly. But she ran through combat forms again and again, the same sequences the instructor had demonstrated. She failed most of them. Her body could not move as fast or as powerfully as the moves required, but she kept trying. Hyun watched from the doorway. He had come back because he forgot his data pad. Instead, he stood there for 20 minutes watching the human fail over and over at the same technique. Watching her get up each time and try again, Prey did not do this. Prey gave up when the challenge was too great. They found easier paths, safer options. This human kept trying the hard way. She kept facing the things that hurt her. She kept helping others even when it cost her. Hyun did not understand it, but he was starting to respect it. The next morning, when Minji arrived early to check equipment, Hyun was already there. I'll help, he said simply. Minji looked surprised but smiled. Thank you. They worked in silence, preparing the training hall. It was the first time a cub had voluntarily chosen to be near her outside of required activities. It was a small change, but it was a beginning. The fourth week brought a shift in the atmosphere of combat training class Alpha 7. It was subtle, but it was there. More cubs arrived early to training. Not to practice, but to help Minji and Hyun prepare the equipment. They did not talk much, but they worked together. Instructor Vaxthor noticed. His expression grew darker each day. Minji's physical scores remained the lowest in the class. She could not change her human biology. She would never have the strength of a Krellian or the speed of a Velkari, but other things were changing. During theoretical lessons on tactics and strategy, Minji's scores were near the top. She had been studying every night, reading every manual she could access. When Instructor Vaxthor asked complex questions about battlefield strategy, Minji often knew the answers. This seemed to annoy him more than her physical failures did. Ji-won noticed that Minji never slept more than 4 hours each night. The Thornback's room was near Minji's, and she could hear when the human was moving around. One night, curiosity got the better of her. She knocked on Minji's door. Minji opened it, looking surprised. She was still in her training clothes, and tactical manuals were spread across her desk. It's after midnight, Ji-won said. You should rest. I will, Minji said. I just want to finish this section on multi-species unit coordination. Ji-won looked at the manuals. There were at least 6 of them, all thick books. Why do you study so much? Minji sat down, gesturing for Ji-won to enter if she wanted. Because I have to. You have natural instincts for combat. Your body knows how to fight. Mine doesn't, so I need to know everything else better. Strategy, tactics, biology, medicine. If I can't be the strongest, I need to be the smartest. You study our biology? Ji-won asked. All of them, Minji said, pointing to another stack of books. Krellian, Velkari, Thornback, all the species in our class. What you need to survive. What hurts you. What helps you. If we're going to work together someday, I need to understand how to keep everyone safe. Ji-won picked up one of the books. It was about Thornback physiology, and it was covered in Minji's notes. Small handwriting in the margins, observations, cross-references to other species. This human had spent hours learning about people who mostly ignored her. Why? Ji-won asked quietly. Because you matter, Minji said simply. Ji-won left without saying anything else, but she thought about that conversation for days. Around the same time, Daehyun discovered something else about Minji. There was a young Thornback cub named Junho who was struggling badly with theoretical coursework. Junho was excellent in physical combat, but could not grasp complex tactical concepts. His scores were so low that he was at risk of failing out of the academy. Daehyun found them in the library one evening. Minji was patiently explaining a tactical concept to Junho, using small objects to represent units on a battlefield. No, see, she was saying, if you put your strong units here and here, They protect the weak point while still being able to advance. It's like, think of it like a pack hunt. You wouldn't send all your hunters from one direction, right? Junho's eyes lit up. Oh, like surrounding prey from multiple angles. Exactly, Minji said. Tactics are just organized hunting. Daehyun watched as Minji helped Junho work through several practice problems. She had translated the complex theoretical language into concepts that made sense to Junho's predator mind. She did not make him feel stupid. She just found a different way to explain. When Junho left, much happier than when he arrived, Daehyun approached Minji. "You're helping him," he said. It was not a question. He asked for help, Minji replied. "You could use that study time for yourself. Your physical scores need work." Minji smiled tiredly. "My physical scores will always need work. I'm human. But maybe I can help make sure everyone else succeeds." Daehyun thought about this. In Krellian culture, you helped your clutchmates, your family, but you did not help outsiders, especially not those who might compete with you for rank. Yet this human helped everyone, even though it gave her no advantage. The 5th week brought a new development. A Valkyrie cub named Sora had received news that her father had died in combat. She sat alone in the common area trying to process the grief. Valkyrie did not show emotion publicly, but her ears were flat against her head, her tail completely still. The other cubs gave her space. It was respectful. It was appropriate. Grief was private. Minji walked over and sat down next to her. She did not say anything. She just sat there. After a few minutes, Sora spoke. "You don't have to stay." "I know," Minji said. "I want to be alone." "Okay, but I'll be here anyway." "In case you don't?" They sat in silence for 6 hours. Minji did not try to talk. Did not try to make Sora feel better with words. She just stayed, present, available, not demanding anything. Other cubs passed by and saw them. They did not understand what Minji was doing. But Sora understood. Sometimes you needed someone to be there even if they said nothing. Sometimes being alone was the worst thing, even if you thought you wanted it. When Sora finally stood up to go to her room, she touched Minji's shoulder briefly. "Thank you." Minji just nodded. By the end of the 5th week, a small group of cubs had started meeting informally. Hyun, Jiwon, Daehyun, Minho, Sora. They did not plan it. It just happened that they ended up in the same places talking about the same thing, the human. "She helped me with climbing technique," Sora said. "She studies all our species," Jiwon added. "She knows our biology better than most of us do." "She carried Minho when he was hurt," Daehyun said. Even though it cost her the exercise score, Minho was quiet, then spoke. "My people have a concept, pack bonding. When you adopt someone into your family group, even if they're not blood. It's rare. It's special. I think the human has pack bonded with all of us. But we have not bonded with her," Hyun said slowly. "We have ignored her." "Some have mocked her. Yet she treats us like we are her pack anyway." "Maybe that is what humans do," Jiwon suggested. "Maybe they bond with those around them whether those others bond back or not." It was a strange thought. Most species only protected their own. Family, clutch, pack. Whatever they called it, the concept was the same. You helped those who shared your blood or your bond. Outsiders were competition at best, threats at worst. But Minji helped everyone. Even Taemin, who openly called her weak and useless. When Taemin's sister Nari had struggled with a high-gravity simulation, Minji had quietly adjusted the settings before the instructor noticed. Nari would have been shamed if she had failed. Minji saved her from that, and Taemin never even knew. But Nari knew, and she had not forgotten. Instructor Vaxthor was also paying attention, but his thoughts were very different. He watched his cubs helping the human, arriving early to assist her, studying with her. He watched them grow softer, more concerned with each other's success instead of their own individual achievement. This was not how warriors were made. Warriors were forged through competition, through struggle, through learning that only the strong survived. This human was teaching them cooperation, mutual support, group success over individual glory. It was making them weak. He decided something needed to be done. During the 6th-week training session, Vaxthor made an announcement. "In 2 weeks, we will have a Cull Week, a series of trials. The cadet with the lowest overall score will be expelled from the academy." The room went silent. "This is how we ensure only the worthy continue," Vaxthor continued. Only the strongest, the fastest, the best. Those who cannot meet our standards will be removed. His eyes found Minji in the back row. The message was clear. That evening, the cubs who had been quietly watching Minji gathered together. They did not need to say what they were all thinking. Everyone knew who would score lowest in physical trials. There will be theoretical tests too, Hyun said. She's good at those. Not good enough to overcome how far behind she is in physical scores, Daehyun replied grimly. They sat in worried silence. Then Minho said something that surprised everyone, including himself. We have to help her. How? Ji-won asked. We cannot take the test for her. No, Minho said slowly. But we can train with her. We can help her improve as much as possible. Sora nodded. She has helped all of us. Now we help her. Even as they made this plan, they knew it might not be enough. Minji was human. There were limits to what her body could do. But they had to try, because somewhere along the way, without any of them quite realizing when it happened, Minji had become part of their pack. The Cull week arrived like a storm on the horizon. Every cadet felt the tension. For most of them, it was merely stressful. For Minji, it could mean the end of everything she had worked for. The first trial was pure strength. Each cadet had to lift progressively heavier weights until they could not continue. The test measured maximum capability, not technique or strategy. Pure physical power. Minji knew before she started that she would place last. Human muscles simply could not compete with species that had evolved for greater strength. But she stepped up to the testing platform anyway, her face calm. She lifted the first weight. Then the second. By the fifth weight, her arms were shaking. Other cadets were already on their 8th or 9th. Taemin lifted his 12th weight with a roar of triumph. Minji attempted her 6th weight. She got it halfway up. Her muscles screamed. She could feel something about to tear in her shoulder. She set it down carefully, not dropping it, maintaining control even in failure. Cadet Minji, unable to complete 6th weight, Instructor Vaxthor announced. Last place. Minji stepped down from the platform. As she did, she noticed that Junho had hurt his hand during his lift. The thornback was trying to hide it, but blood was seeping between his fingers. She walked over to him. Let me see, she said quietly. It's nothing, Junho insisted. Minji gently took his hand, a deep cut across the palm where the weight's rough surface had sliced him. She pulled medical supplies from her bag. She had started carrying them everywhere after the obstacle course incident. You need stitches, she said, but this will stop the bleeding until you can get to medical. She wrapped his hand carefully while other cadets continued their lifts. Hunyo watched her work. You're in last place and you're helping me? Your hand is hurt, Minji said simply. That matters more than rankings. Instructor Vaxthor saw this interaction. His jaw tightened. The second trial was speed. A sprint course through various obstacles. Agility, reaction time, raw velocity. Again, these were not human strengths. Minji ran the course with everything she had. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like they would give out. She finished second to last, only beating a small thornback cub who had twisted an ankle halfway through. But during the trial, something interesting happened. The course had a section where cadets had to choose between 3 paths. Most chose the straightest route, relying on speed to power through. Minji chose a longer but smoother path that better suited her body's capabilities. Hyun noticed this. Minji was thinking strategically even during a pure speed test. She could not change her body's limits, so she worked within them as efficiently as possible. The third trial was combat. One-on-one matches. This was where Minji had failed consistently since the beginning. She was matched against Taemin. The Krellian grinned as they faced each other in the ring. This will be quick, prey species. The match started. Taemin attacked immediately, using his superior strength and reach. Minji defended, dodging and blocking. She had learned from 6 weeks of losses. She could not beat Taemin, but she could last longer than 30 seconds now. She managed to stay in the fight for almost a minute. She even landed one glancing blow on Taemin's shoulder, though it did no real damage. Then Taemin swept her legs and she hit the mat hard. Match over, Vaxthor announced. Minji stood up, breathing hard but not injured. Then Taemin did something unexpected. As she was rising, he struck her again. A hard blow to her side, driving her back down. Stay down, human, he hissed. The room went silent. Striking an opponent after the match was called was against the rules. Explicitly forbidden. Dangerous and dishonorable. Instructor Vaxthor stood at the edge of the ring. He had seen it. Everyone had seen it. But he said nothing. He simply moved on to the next match. Minji pulled herself up slowly, holding her ribs where Taemin had hit her. The pain was sharp. Maybe a cracked rib. She walked off the mat without complaint, but several cubs saw her wince. Daehyun's claws extended involuntarily. Minho's tail lashed in anger. Even cubs who had barely interacted with Minji felt something wrong about what they had just witnessed. The instructor had allowed it. He had seen a rule violation and done nothing. That evening, Sora confronted Taemin in the barracks. "Why did you hit her after the match ended?" "She's weak," Taemin said. "She needs to learn." "That's not learning. That's cruelty." Taemin turned away. But his sister Nari was watching him with disappointed eyes. The fourth trial was theoretical knowledge. A written examination covering tactics, xenobiology, field medicine, and strategic thinking. This was Minji's strength. She completed the test carefully, drawing on all her nights of study. When the results were posted, she had placed first, the highest score in the class. Instructor Vaxthor stared at the results for a long time. Then he made an announcement. "There are irregularities in Cadet Minji's test. I suspect cheating. Her score will be reviewed." Minji stood up from her seat in the back row. "Sir, I did not cheat. You have the lowest physical scores in academy history, yet suddenly you score highest in theoretical knowledge? It's suspicious. I study every night, sir. I can demonstrate my knowledge verbally if you doubt the written test." Before Vaxthor could respond, Jiwon spoke up. "Sir, I can testify. I have seen Minji studying. Every night for hours. She knows the material." Other cubs murmured agreement. Hyun stood. "She helped me understand Velkari combat history. She knows it better than I do, and it's my own species' history." Junho added. "She tutored me in tactics. She's the reason I passed the last exam." Vaxthor looked at his cubs, now openly defending the human. His expression was unreadable. "Very well. The score stands. But there is still one trial remaining. The fifth trial was announced the next morning, a team exercise. Cadets would be divided into teams for a capture-the-flag scenario in simulated hostile terrain. Each team would have a leader. Vaxthor read out the team assignments. He had clearly designed them to create certain outcomes. The strongest cubs were grouped together. The weakest were separated and paired with moderate performers. Then he announced Minji's team, Team 5. Leader, Cadet Minji. Members, Hyun, Sora, Jiwon, Minho, Junho, and Nari. It was clearly designed to be the weakest team. Hyun and Sora were decent fighters, but the rest were among the smaller and less physically dominant cubs. And Minji was the leader, despite being the lowest-ranked cadet. "This team will face Team 1, Vaxthor continued, led by Cadet Taemin. Taemin's team had the biggest, strongest cubs in the class. It was not even close to fair. That evening, Team 5 gathered to plan. They sat in a circle looking worried. Everyone understood what this was, a setup. A designed failure to justify expelling Minji. "We cannot beat them in direct combat," Daehyun said. He was not on their team, but he had come to help them plan. "No," Minji agreed. "We can't, so we won't try." Everyone looked at her. "We're smaller," Minji continued. "Weaker in direct confrontation. But we can be faster, smarter. We don't need to beat them in a fight. We just need to capture their flag before they capture ours." "How?" Junyo asked. Minji pulled out a map of the training terrain. "We use defense in depth. Layers of protection around our flag, not just a single strong point. We make them work for every meter. While they're busy attacking us, a small strike team goes for their flag. They'll just overpower our defenses," Minho said. "Maybe," Minji admitted, "but not quickly. And time is all we need. Hyun, you're the fastest. Sora, you're the best climber. Jiwon, you're the most observant. You three are the strike team." She laid out a detailed plan. Positions for each team member. Fallback points. Communication signals. She had thought through every detail. "You really think this can work?" Nari asked quietly. "I think," Minji said, "that strength is not the only way to win. And I think we're stronger together than they give us credit for." The cubs looked at each other. They had been put together because they were considered weak. But Minji was not treating them as weak. She was using each of their strengths, finding ways to make their differences into advantages. Sora smiled, showing her fangs. "Then let's show them what the weak team can do." The exercise was scheduled for the next morning. None of them slept much that night. Too much was riding on this. For Minji, it was her place at the academy. For the others, it was proving that they were more than just the cubs nobody expected anything from. When morning came, they were ready. The team exercise ended just before sunset. Team 5 had won. Nobody had expected it. Taemin's team was bigger, stronger, more physically capable in every way. But Minji's strategy had worked. While Taemin's cubs exhausted themselves trying to break through layered defenses, Yun, Sora, and Jiwon had slipped around the edges and captured their flag. Instructor Vaxthor had watched the entire exercise in silence. When it ended, he dismissed everyone without comment. But his expression was dark. The cubs gathered in the common barracks area, celebrating quietly. Even cubs from other teams congratulated Team 5. It had been an impressive victory. Then Vaxthor's voice came over the communication system. "All cadets to the assembly hall immediately." The celebration stopped. Everyone filed into the hall and stood at attention. Vaxthor stood at the front, his posture rigid. The team exercise revealed concerning trends, he began. Cadets are prioritizing group success over individual achievement. This is not how warriors are forged. He paced slowly across the platform. Cadet Minji's presence has created a softness in this class. You help each other. You work together. You have forgotten that in real combat only the strong survive. Several cubs shifted uncomfortably. Therefore, Vaxthor continued, there will be one final trial. Tomorrow morning, Cadet Minji will face me in single combat. If she cannot land a single strike, she will be expelled from the academy regardless of her other scores. The hall erupted in protest. Cubs from every team began speaking at once. Vaxthor's voice cut through the noise. This is not open for discussion. Dismissed. The cubs filed out in stunned silence. Once outside the hall, they gathered in small groups, talking urgently. That's not a test, Daehyun said angrily. That's an execution of her career here. She can't land a hit on him, Minho said miserably. He's an elite warrior. She's barely beaten other cadets in practice matches. This isn't fair, Sora hissed. The rules never said anything about having to fight an instructor. Vaxthor makes the rules, Taemin said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Taemin had been silent since the team exercise. Now he stood with his arms crossed, his expression troubled. I have hated the human, he said slowly. I called her weak, prey species. I thought she did not belong here. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was different, ashamed. But my sister Nari was struggling with the high-gravity simulation 3 weeks ago. She would have failed in front of all of us. Been shamed. Minji saw her struggling and adjusted the settings before anyone else noticed. She saved Nari from that humiliation. Nari nodded, her eyes on the ground. I never thanked her. I was too embarrassed. I struck her after our combat match ended, Taemin continued. I broke the rules. The instructor saw it and did nothing. That should have told me something was wrong, but I was too proud to see it. He looked at the other cubs. This trial tomorrow is not about strength or skill. It is about removing her because she is changing us, and Vaxthor sees that as weakness. Is it weakness? Hunyo asked quietly. We won today because we worked together, because Minji made us stronger as a team. My father always said warriors must be hard, Daehyun said. No emotions. No bonds except a family. But Minji has shown me something different. She helps everyone, not because she gains something from it, just because she believes it is right. Jiwon spoke up, her voice thoughtful. I have been watching her since she arrived. She never sleeps more than 4 hours. She studies all our species, learns our needs. She carries medical supplies. She positions herself during exercises where she can watch everyone's safety. She pack bonds, Minho said. My people do this, but only with family or close allies. Minji does it with everyone. She has made all of us her pack, whether we wanted it or not. Hyun added, she is not our prey. She is our den mother. The word hung in the air. Den mother. The one who protects the young. Who teaches? Who keeps the pack together? Then what do we do? Nari asked. We cannot fight an instructor for her. The cubs stood in frustrated silence. They wanted to help, but the rules were clear. The trial was between Minji and Vaxthor. No one else could interfere. Then Minji's voice came from behind them. You don't have to do anything. They turned. Minji had been in the corner of the common area, working on equipment repairs like she often did. They had forgotten she was there. Or maybe they had been so caught up in their conversation they had not noticed her. She walked over to them, looking tired but calm. "Thank you, all of you, for everything. But tomorrow I face this alone." "That's not right," Sora said fiercely. "You never leave anyone alone. You're always there for all of us." "This is different," Minji said gently. "I knew when I came here that I was not like you, weaker, slower. I knew it would be hard. This is just another hard thing." "You don't understand," Hyun said. "You have been taking care of us, feeding us, helping us, watching over us. We have been taking everything from you and giving nothing back." Minji smiled a little. "That's not true. You gave me a chance. You could have ignored me completely. Instead, you let me be part of this class. That's more than enough." "No," Jiwon said firmly. "It is not enough. You are not alone tomorrow. We cannot fight for you, but we can be there. We can witness. We can make sure the trial is fair." The other cubs nodded in agreement. "If Vaxthor cheats," Daehyun said, "if he makes this unfair beyond what it already is, we will report him as a unit to Academy Command." Taemin stepped forward. "I have been your enemy. I have been cruel. I am ashamed of this. But tomorrow I stand with you. We all do." Minji looked at all of them, these fierce young warriors from a dozen different species, cubs who had been strangers and rivals weeks ago. Now they stood together, united in their determination to support her. Her eyes grew wet, though she tried to hide it. Humans cried when they felt strong emotions. It was another weakness, another strange thing about her species. "Thank you," she whispered. They spent the evening together, all 24 cubs from Combat Training Class Alpha 7. They did not plan strategy for the next day. There was no strategy that would help. Instead, they simply existed together as a group. Minho shared food from his homeworld. Sora told stories about Velkari hunting traditions. Daehyun demonstrated a Krellian meditation technique. Junyo showed them a thornback rhythm pattern game. Minji sat in the middle of them, listening and laughing and being part of the pack. Around midnight, the group began to disperse to their rooms. They needed rest for tomorrow, but before they left, each cub approached Minji. Some touched her shoulder, some clasped her hand, some simply stood near her for a moment. No words were needed. When the last cub had gone, Minji sat alone in the common area. She thought about tomorrow, about facing Vaxthor in combat, about the very real possibility that she would fail and lose everything. But she also thought about what she had gained. These cubs had become her family. They had learned to work together, to support each other, to be stronger as a unit than as individuals. Even if she was expelled tomorrow, that would remain. She had changed something here, made a difference that was worth fighting for. She went to her room and pulled out her tactical manuals one last time. She would not sleep tonight. Instead, she would study every combat technique she knew, learn every possible way to land a single strike on a vastly superior opponent. It was almost impossible, but humans specialized in doing impossible things. The sun would rise in a few hours. The trial would begin, and Minji would face it the way she had faced everything else at this academy. She would not quit. She would not break. And she would protect her pack by showing them one last time that strength came in many forms. Even if you lost, you could still win by refusing to give up. That was the human way. In their own rooms, the cubs of Class Alpha 7 tried to sleep. Most failed. They lay awake thinking about tomorrow, about their strange human packmate, about what might happen. They had come to this academy as individuals from different worlds, competitors, strangers. Now they were something else. They were a pack. And tomorrow, their pack would stand together. Morning came too quickly. The twin suns of Valoris Prime rose over the academy, casting long shadows across the combat arena. Word had spread about the trial. Not just Combat Training Class Alpha 7, but cadets from other classes, instructors, and administrative staff gathered to witness what everyone knew was an execution of Minji's academy career. The combat arena was a circular space 30 meters across. Reinforced flooring, high ceilings, observation platforms on all sides. It was designed for training, not for an instructor to fight a cadet in what amounted to a sanctioned beating. Minji entered from the east gate. She wore standard training gear. No armor, no weapons, just the basic uniform that all cadets wore for hand-to-hand combat practice. The 23 cubs of Class Alpha 7 were already there, sitting in the front row of the observation area. They sat together, a united block of young warriors. Their presence was unusual. Normally, cubs scattered throughout the seating, but today they presented a unified front. Other instructors noticed this. Whispers spread through the crowd. Instructor Vaxthor entered from the west gate. He wore full combat armor, the heavy plates that Krellian warriors used in actual warfare. It was against regulations for training exercises. Combat armor gave an unfair advantage in hand-to-hand matches. Hyun stood up. "Sir, combat armor is not permitted in training scenarios." Vaxthor looked at him coldly. "This is not a training scenario. This is a competency trial. Sit down, cadet." Hyun remained standing. So did Sora, then Jiwon, then Minho. One by one, all 23 cubs stood. An older Velkari in command insignia entered the arena observation area. Commandant Thresh was the head of Academy combat training. Her presence meant this trial was being watched at the highest levels. "Instructor Vaxthor," Commandant Thresh said, her voice carrying across the arena. "Explain the armor." "The cadet must prove she can survive real combat conditions," Vaxthor replied. "In real battle, enemies wear armor." "In real battle," Thresh said slowly, "cadets are not sent against elite warriors in single combat. But proceed. I will observe." Vaxthor and Minji faced each other in the center of the arena. The size difference was dramatic. Vaxthor stood over 8 feet tall, covered in scales and armor. Minji was barely over 5.5 feet, her soft human skin exposed. "The rules are simple," Vaxthor announced. "The trial continues until the cadet lands a strike or until the cadet can no longer continue. Begin." He did not give Minji time to prepare. He did not bow or acknowledge her as an opponent. He simply attacked. But Minji had spent the entire night studying. She knew she could not block his strikes, could not match his strength. Her only option was to avoid damage as long as possible and hope for an opening. She dodged the first strike. Barely. His fist passed inches from her head. She could feel the wind from its passage. She tried a counterstrike, aiming for his knee joint. Her hand connected with armor plating. It was like hitting a wall. Pain shot through her knuckles. Vaxthor swept at her legs. She jumped, but not quite high enough. His arm caught her ankle. She hit the ground hard, rolled, got back up. The pattern repeated. Vaxthor attacked with the skill of a veteran warrior. Minji defended with the desperation of someone who knew she was outmatched. She dodged, rolled, backpedaled, trying to stay alive. Minutes passed. Minji was bloodied now. A cut over her eye. Her lip split. Bruises forming wherever she had failed to completely avoid his strikes. But she kept getting up. In the observation area, the cubs watched in tense silence. Their claws were extended. Their muscles coiled. Every instinct told them to intervene to protect their packmate. But the rules were clear. This was Minji's trial. "She's not trying to win," Jiwon said quietly. "She's trying to survive long enough for an opening." "There won't be an opening," Daehyun said grimly. Vaxthor is too skilled, but Minji kept trying. She attempted strikes whenever she saw a chance. Each one connected with armor or was deflected. Each one did no damage, but she kept trying. Vaxthor increased the force of his attacks. A strike to Minji's shoulder sent her spinning. She hit the arena floor and lay there for a moment, gasping. "Stay down, prey species," Vaxthor said. "You do not belong here." "Accept it." Minji pushed herself up on shaking arms. Blood dripped from her face onto the arena floor. "No, what did you say?" "No," Minji repeated, getting to her feet. "They're watching. The cubs, my pack. I have to show them that humans don't quit." Something flickered across Vaxthor's face. Anger. Real anger. Not the cold professional demeanor he had maintained. "Your pack?" he snarled. "You have made them weak, dependent, emotional. You have corrupted them with your prey species softness." He struck her again. Harder than before. Harder than training regulations allowed. The blow caught her in the ribs. Something cracked. Minji was thrown across the arena. She hit the ground and did not get up. In the observation area, every cub tensed. Daehyun's claws dug into the seat in front of him. Minho's tail was completely rigid. Sora's ears were flat against her head, her fangs bared. "Get up," Hyun whispered. Please get up, Minji tried. She got to her hands and knees, coughed. Blood spattered on the floor. Broken ribs, certainly. Possibly worse. I will teach you your place, Vaxtor said, walking toward her. I will teach all of you what happens when weakness is tolerated. He pulled his arm back for another strike. A full-force blow, the kind that could kill an unarmored opponent. Time seemed to slow. Minji was on the ground trying to rise. Vaxtor was moving to strike her while she was down. It was beyond illegal. It was attempted murder. And in that moment something broke in the cubs of Class Alpha 7. They saw their den mother broken on the ground. They saw the instructor who was supposed to teach them, about to seriously injure or kill her. They saw betrayal of everything the academy supposedly stood for. Daehyun moved first. He did not think. He simply reacted. He vaulted over the railing and into the arena. Packet was a war cry, a challenge, a promise. The other cubs followed instantly, 23 young warriors leaping into the arena as one. They formed a wall between Vaxtor and Minji. Battle stances, claws extended, fangs bared, the arena erupted in chaos. Other instructors stood. Commandant Thresh moved toward the arena entrance. But the cubs were faster. Sora spoke first, her voice deadly calm. Touch her again and face the pack. Vaxtor stared at them in shock. Then his shock turned to rage. You defend prey. You shame your species. Stand aside. No, Taemin said. He stood at the front of the group, the cub who had once mocked Minji most viciously. You shame yourself, instructor. She is ours. She is pack. You taught us to defend pack. She is not pack. She is an outsider, a weak human who does not belong here. She belongs, Jiwan said firmly. More than you do right now. Vaxtor took a step forward, his fist clenched. Stand aside or I will move you aside. The cubs did not move. Mino's voice was soft but clear. We are 23. You are 1. Even you cannot take all of us. You would fight your instructor? That is court-martial, expulsion, the end of your careers. Yes, Hyun said simply, we know. We do not care. Behind the wall of cubs, Minji was being helped to her feet by Nari and Junho. She tried to speak, to tell them to stand down. But she could barely breathe with her broken ribs. Commandant Thresh's voice cut through the arena like a blade. Enough! Every head turned toward her. She stood at the arena entrance, her expression furious. All personnel stand down. Now. The cubs held their positions for another moment, then slowly moved to form a protective circle around Minji, rather than an aggressive line facing Vaxtor. Medical personnel rushed in. They surrounded Minji immediately, scanning her injuries. The cubs refused to leave her side until the medics explicitly told them they needed space to work. Even then, they only moved a few feet away. Close enough to intervene if needed. Commandant Thresh walked into the center of the arena. Instructor Vaxtor, you are relieved of duty pending investigation. Report to administrative holding. Investigation? Vaxtor sounded incredulous. I was conducting a legitimate trial. You struck a cadet with lethal force while she was down, Thresh said coldly. That is not training. That is assault. You will answer for this, she turned to the cubs. All cadets of Class Alpha 7, you are confined to quarters until individual interviews can be conducted. The cubs did not move. They watched as the medical team carefully lifted Minji onto a transport stretcher. She was conscious but clearly in serious pain. As they carried her toward the medical bay, she managed to turn her head to look at the cubs. Her pack, her family. She smiled just a little. Then she was gone. The cubs stood in the arena, still in their protective formation, even though there was no one left to protect. Taemin spoke quietly. We just ended our careers. Yes, Sora agreed. Worth it? Mino asked. Everyone nodded. Worth it. The medical bay was cramped with cubs. Regulations said only 2 visitors per patient, but 18 cubs had somehow squeezed themselves into the space around Minji's bed. The medical staff had given up trying to enforce the rules after the 3rd attempt. Minji lay propped up on pillows, her ribs wrapped in healing bandages, her face marked with cuts and bruises. The medical scanner had shown 3 broken ribs, a minor concussion, and extensive soft tissue damage. She would heal, but it would take time. You're all idiot, she said, but her voice was gentle. Yes, Hyun agreed. We know. You jumped into the arena. You challenged an instructor. You probably ended your academy careers. Also yes, Minho said. Why? Minji asked, though she already knew. She just needed to hear them say it. Taemin stepped forward. He had been standing at the back of the group, uncomfortable. Because you are Pack, and Pack protects each other. Even when Pack is stupid and weak, Minji asked, a slight smile on her damaged face. You're not weak, Sora said firmly. You're the strongest one here. I'm literally the weakest. I lost that trial, badly. You kept getting up, Daehyun rumbled. He hit you over and over. Any of us would have stayed down. You kept getting up. That's not weakness, Jiwon added. And you did it because we were watching. You wanted to show us that quitting was not an option. That's stronger than any physical power. The door to the medical bay opened. Commandant Thresh entered, her expression unreadable. The cubs immediately stood at attention. At ease, Thresh said. She looked at Minji. How are you feeling, cadet? I'll survive, ma'am. Indeed. Thresh pulled up a chair and sat down, which surprised everyone. Commandants did not usually sit casually with cadets. I need statements from all of you. What you saw. What happened. But first I want to understand something. She looked at the cubs. Why did you intervene? You all know the rules. Interfering with a trial is a serious offense. Yet every single one of you jumped into that arena without hesitation. The cubs looked at each other. Finally, Nari spoke up. Ma'am, permission to speak freely? Granted. It stopped being a trial, Nari said quietly. When he struck her while she was down with lethal force. That was not testing. That was trying to hurt her. Maybe kill her. Thresh nodded slowly. Did others observe the same? Every cub responded in the affirmative. I see. And this warranted risking your careers? Yes, ma'am, Hyun said. She is one of us. We protect our own, even though she is human. Different from all of you? Because she is Pack, Minho said simply. Species does not matter. Pack matters. Thresh was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I need detailed testimonies from each of you. But not here. Formal interviews properly recorded. Medical staff will be present for Cadet Minji's interview. She stood. One more thing. I reviewed the recordings of this class over the past 8 weeks. Every training session, every interaction. What I found was interesting. She looked directly at Minji. You have been subjected to targeted exercises designed to cause failure. Disproportionate criticism. Violations of safety protocols that were ignored by your instructor. And today, a trial that violated multiple academy regulations. Minji said nothing. You never reported any of this. Thresh observed. I came here knowing I would face challenges, ma'am. I didn't want special treatment. There is a difference between challenges and systematic abuse, Thresh said firmly. What was done to you was the latter. Over the next 3 days, every cub gave their testimony. The interviews were thorough. Commandant Thresh and 2 other senior officers questioned each cadet separately. Taemin testified about his own cruelty toward Minji and how she had helped his sister anyway. I struck her after a match ended. Instructor Vaxthor saw it and did nothing. I thought that meant it was acceptable. Now I understand he wanted me to hurt her. Hyun described Minji's nightly study sessions, her constant preparation of equipment, her attention to everyone's safety. She made us better. Not by being strong, but by making us think about each other. Ji-won provided detailed observations about Minji's behavior patterns. She always positioned herself to watch everyone. Not for tactical advantage, for safety. She was protecting us before we even knew we needed protection. Minho testified about being carried from the obstacle course. I was injured. She failed her own test to make sure I was safe. That's when I knew she was different. Predators don't sacrifice for outsiders, but she did. Junho talked about the tutoring sessions. I was failing. She helped me without asking for anything in return. She wanted me to succeed even though we were competing for rank. Sora described sitting with Minji after her father died. She didn't try to fix it or make it better. She just stayed. For 6 hours. That's what family does. Daehyun spoke about the team exercise. She made us work together, found ways to use our strengths. We won because she understood that we were better as a unit than as individuals. Nari testified about the high-gravity simulation. I would have failed. Been shamed. Minji adjusted the setting so I could succeed. She never told anyone. Never asked for credit. She just helped because I needed help. The pattern was clear. Minji had been taking care of the cubs since day one, and Vaxthor had been trying to break her since day one. The investigation also revealed other things. Vaxthor had filed reports claiming Minji was disruptive, incompetent, and dangerous to other cadets. None of these reports matched the observations of other instructors or the recorded training sessions. He had also requisitioned combat armor for personal training the day before the trial, premeditated, planned. On the fourth day, Commandant Thresh called a formal hearing. All cadets of Class Alpha 7 were required to attend. So was Instructor Vaxthor. The hearing room was large and formal. Thresh sat at the center of a 3-officer panel. Vaxthor stood before them, still in uniform but without rank insignia. The cubs sat in the gallery watching. Thresh began. Instructor Vaxthor, you are charged with abuse of authority, targeted harassment of a cadet, violation of safety protocols, and assault. How do you respond? These charges are absurd, Vaxthor said. I was preparing cadets for real combat. War is not gentle. War does not care if you are weak. This is an academy, Thresh said coldly, not a battlefield. We train warriors here, yes, but we do not break them. We do not target them for failure because we disagree with their presence. That human does not belong here. Vaxthor's composure cracked. She is weak, soft. She makes the cubs dependent and emotional. She is teaching them to be prey instead of predators. Let me show you something, Thresh said. She activated a holographic display. It showed statistics for combat training class Alpha 7, physical scores, combat effectiveness, tactical knowledge. All categories show improvement over the past 8 weeks. Not decline. Improvement. She pulled up more data. Injury rates in your class are 40% lower than other combat classes. Equipment failures are down 60%, and cohesion scores, the measure of how well cadets work together, are the highest in academy history. She looked at Vaxthor. You claim Cadet Minji made your cubs weak. The data shows the opposite. She made them stronger, better, more effective as a unit. Numbers mean nothing, Vaxthor insisted. They help each other now. In battle, that will get them killed. Really? Thresh pulled up another screen. Battle records from the last 50 years. Units with high cohesion scores have survival rates 35% higher than units with low cohesion. Soldiers who trust each other, who work together, who protect each other, they survive. That's not weakness. That's strength. The evidence was overwhelming. Testimony from 23 cadets. Video recordings of training sessions. Medical reports. Statistical analysis. The panel deliberated for less than an hour. Vaxthor was stripped of his rank and expelled from the academy. He would face criminal charges for the assault. Then Thresh addressed the cubs. Your actions in the arena violated protocol. You interfered with a trial. You challenged a superior officer. Under normal circumstances, this would result in expulsion. The cubs sat silently, accepting their fate. However, Thresh continued, you acted to prevent serious harm to a fellow cadet. Your instructor had abandoned his duty and become a threat. You did what warriors are supposed to do. You protected those who could not protect themselves. She paused. You will all receive formal reprimands in your files, but you will not be expelled. You will continue your training. Relief flooded through the room. Cadet Minji, Thresh said, looking directly at her. You are cleared of all failure markings. Your theoretical scores place you in the top 5% of your class. Your physical scores are exactly average for an unaugmented human, which means you have been performing at the peak of your species' capability. She smiled slightly. You are also being transferred to the strategic operations track, where human cognitive abilities excel. Your combat training will continue, but your focus will shift to tactics, command, and coordination. Minji nodded, not trusting herself to speak. One more thing, Thresh said. Class Alpha 7 has requested to remain together as a unit. This is unusual, but given your exceptional cohesion scores, the request is granted. You will train together, study together, and eventually serve together. She looked at all of them. You came here as individuals from different worlds. You have become something rare and valuable. A true mixed species unit, the first of its kind at this academy. That is all. 6 months passed like water flowing downhill. Inevitable. Constant. Transformative. Combat training class. Alpha 7 became known throughout the academy as the Humans Pack. At first, it was meant as an insult. A way to mock cubs who followed a weak human, but the cubs wore the name with pride. They carved it into their training equipment. They said it like a title, the Humans Pack. Other classes watched them with a mixture of confusion and grudging respect. This strange mixed group that trained together, ate together, studied together. They moved like a single organism, each member instinctively aware of where the others were. Minji's role in the pack evolved naturally. She was not the strongest fighter. She would never be. But she had become something else entirely. During combat simulations, she stayed back and coordinated. Hyun, left flank. Sora, climb high for overview. Taehyun, center hold. Her voice was calm, clear. She saw the battlefield like a three-dimensional puzzle and moved her packmates like pieces that perfectly fit together. Her physical abilities had improved significantly. Human endurance was a strange thing. While other species were faster and stronger in short bursts, humans could keep going. Minji trained with equipment borrowed from the Krellian heavy gravity chamber. Her muscles adapted. She still could not match the raw power of her packmates, but she could fight longer than most of them. In a 15-minute continuous combat scenario, Minji outlasted everyone except Daehyun. Not because she was stronger, because she simply did not stop. The pack had evolved too. They had learned from Minji's example. Taemin, who had once been the most aggressive and prideful, now checked on younger cubs during training. When a new cadet struggled with homesickness, Taemin sat with them, remembering how Minji had sat with Sora. He was not good at comfort, but he was present. That mattered. Hyun chose xenopsychology as his specialty. He studied how different species thought, communicated, bonded. He wrote a thesis on human pack bonding behaviors and how they could improve mixed species unit cohesion. His professors called it groundbreaking. Sora became Minji's combat partner. They trained together every day, learning each other's movements. Sora covered Minji's weaknesses with her speed and agility. Minji covered Sora's blind spots with tactical awareness. Together, they were far more effective than either was alone. Jiwon focused on xenobiology, particularly human physiology. She was fascinated by human adaptation capabilities, how humans could survive in environments that should kill them, how they healed from injuries that would cripple other species, how they bonded across species lines in ways that seemed impossible. Daehyun and Minho started teaching younger cubs about integrated unit tactics. The old way was every warrior for themselves. The new way was warriors supporting each other. Their classes were always full. Junho passed all his theoretical courses with solid marks thanks to Minji's tutoring and his own hard work. He became a specialist in logistics and supply chain management. Not glamorous, but critical. He understood now that every role mattered. Nari followed Minji everywhere. The young Krellian had adopted the human as an older sister figure. She studied everything Minji did, trying to understand how someone so physically limited could be so effective. Other cubs joked that Nari was Minji's shadow. The final graduation trial approached. Every unit had to pass a comprehensive combat simulation. The scenarios were designed by senior military officers. They were supposed to be nearly impossible to complete perfectly. Units chose their difficulty level. Most chose medium difficulty. It was respectable and passable. The Humans Pack chose the hardest scenario available. The simulation was called Civilian Evacuation Under Fire. The setup was brutal. A civilian station was under attack by overwhelming hostile forces. The unit had to hold defensive positions long enough for civilians to evacuate, then extract themselves without losing any team members. Most units who attempted this scenario lasted less than 10 minutes before the simulation declared them defeated. The Humans Pack entered the simulation chamber with quiet confidence. They had trained for this, not just physically. They had trained to think as one unit, to trust each other completely. Minji stood at the tactical display, seeing the entire battlefield. Defense in depth. 3 layers. Hyun, Sora, your scouts. Find their approach routes. Daehyun, Taemin, center strong point. Minho, Junho, left flank. Jiwon, Nari, right flank. I'll coordinate from center rear. The simulation began. Enemy forces approached from multiple directions. The pack moved into position. The first wave hit the outer defense layer. The pack held. They did not try to destroy the enemy. They just slowed them down, made them work for every meter. Civilians are moving, Minji announced, watching the evacuation progress. We need 8 more minutes. The second wave was heavier. The pack fell back to the second defense layer. Coordinated retreat. No one panicked. They had practiced this dozens of times. Hyun took a simulated hit. He went down. Sora immediately dragged him behind cover and applied simulated medical treatment. They were back in the fight within seconds. 5 minutes, Minji said calmly. Outer sections start collapsing toward center. The third wave was massive. More enemies than the pack had ammunition to handle. This was where most units failed. They tried to fight an unwinnable battle. The humans' pack did something different. They stopped trying to win the fight. All units mobile defense, Minji ordered. Constant movement. Make them chase us. We don't need to beat them. We just need to survive. The pack moved like water, never staying in one position, firing from cover then relocating. The enemy was stronger, but they were predictable. They charged forward aggressively, assuming their superior numbers would overwhelm. But you cannot overwhelm an enemy that refuses to stand still. 2 minutes, Minji announced. Extraction point is opening. The pack began their final retreat. Layered withdrawal. The rear guard covering the forward elements, then switching positions, constant rotation so no one was exposed too long. Taemin took multiple hits covering the retreat. His simulated health dropped to critical levels. Daehyun grabbed him and carried him toward the extraction point, still firing with one arm. The enemy pressed hard, sensing victory. They pushed forward in a final assault. Now! Minji shouted. The pack had planted defensive charges throughout the facility. Remote detonated barriers. Not enough to stop the enemy. Just enough to slow them for 30 seconds. 30 seconds was all they needed. The entire pack reached the extraction point. The simulation registered all civilians evacuated. All team members survived. Mission complete, the simulation ended. The chamber lights came up. The pack stood there, breathing hard, looking at each other in disbelief. They had done it. Perfect completion of the hardest scenario. Outside the simulation chamber, observers stood in silence. Commandant Thresh was there. So were senior officers from multiple military branches. They had watched the entire exercise. One officer, a grizzled Krellian general, spoke first. That was the most effective defensive operation I have seen from Academy cadets in 30 years. Another officer, a Velkari admiral, nodded. They did not try to be heroes. They understood the mission and executed it perfectly. That level of discipline and coordination is exceptional. Thresh smiled. She had expected this. She had watched the humans pack train for months, had seen how they moved together, thought together, trusted each other. The graduation ceremony was held 3 days later. Every cadet received their rank insignia and assignment. It was a formal affair, with families present and military officials giving speeches about duty and honor. When the humans pack was called forward, something unusual happened. They were called as a unit, not as individuals. Commandant Thresh presented them with their assignments. Special Operations Unit designate Alpha 7. You will be the first permanent mixed species tactical unit in the Galactic Defense Force. Your mission profile will be high-risk operations requiring coordination and adaptability. She looked at each of them. You proved that strength comes in many forms. That unity is more powerful than individual capability. That different species can become one effective force. She pinned the Special Operations insignia on each uniform. When she reached Minji, she paused. Cadet Minji, you are assigned rank of Lieutenant Junior Grade Strategic Operations. You will serve as Tactical Coordinator for Unit Alpha 7. Minji accepted the rank insignia with steady hands. She had started as the weakest cadet in the class. Now she was an officer, a leader. But more importantly, she was pack. The ceremony continued, but when it ended, the humans pack gathered together away from the crowds. They stood in a circle, these warriors from different worlds who had become family. We did it, Minho said quietly. No, Minji corrected. You did it. All of you. You took a chance on a weak human who had no business being here. You were never weak, Hyun said. We just didn't understand what human strength looked like. You made us better, Sora added. Not by being strong, by showing us how to be strong together. Taemin stepped forward. He had been quiet during the ceremony. Now he looked at Minji with an expression that was equal parts respect and affection. I hated you when you arrived, he said. I thought you were prey, weak, wrong. I was cruel because I believed strength was the only thing that mattered. He clasped her shoulder gently, careful not to hurt her. You taught me that I was wrong.